Yasas! This is Kai Pacha with the weekly Pele report for October 16th. It's Wednesday. A little astrology for this week. The moon is now in the sign of Aries, and she's going to be moving along to conjoin with Chiron, conjunct her own north node. Very powerful. I'll talk about that. And then she's going to be moving forward. By tomorrow, Thursday, we have a full moon at 24 degrees, 34 minutes of Aries. You can see the chart at the beginning, and it's fiery time. It's fiery time, but she will then, after that full moon, move into Taurus. Yeah. By Thursday, she'll square Pluto right at the end of Aries, move into Taurus, and by Friday, she'll come into an opposition with Mercury, who's now in Scorpio, to be joined by the Sun. Sun's going to be doing the same thing, square Pluto, okay, from the other side, end of Libra, and then moving into Scorpio itself. So as Venus moves into Sag Thursday, we're going to have the Sun move into Scorpio. So there's just no end to Scorpio. We'll have the Sun and Mercury both in Scorpio, Moon moving through Taurus, and by Saturday, she'll conjoin with Uranus, trine Pluto, and then move into Gemini in order to oppose Venus. So we've got this thing, moving on. The moon is moving on. That Sun by Sunday is going to come into an inconjunct. I'll talk about this a little bit. There's a yod happening. I talked last week about all these planets in the late degrees. So the Sun in the late degrees of Libra is going to form a yod, the finger of God, the finger of fate. Yes, and this yod is going to be with Uranus and Neptune in conjunct aspect, 150 degrees, 210 degrees. We'll talk a little bit about that. And, pretty much last but not least, Mercury is moving through Scorpio pretty rapidly, so that by next Monday, it's going to come into a nice trine with Saturn. Mercury trine Saturn. Let me see what's around the corner here. I'm on Evia Island, and there's a certain stillness, certain silence, a certain quiet here that's very, very beautiful. Oh yeah, look at this. Drove down past Mount Olympus the other day, and in the land of the gods and the goddesses. So beautiful, so peaceful, so quiet. Yeah, very relaxing. It's a needed relaxation, isn't it? Things are pretty wild out there. The moon does go into Gemini by Saturday, and we'll be cruising along until it conjuncts with Jupiter next Monday, right? So let me find a nice place. Last but not least, we have to say that, Black Moon Lilith is still sneaking around that south node of the moon in Libra. So we have these, moon's nodes in Aries Libra still going on. I want to be talking about that a little bit. And yeah, there's the aspects for you. So let's see what's going on here. All right, I'm going to try to pull this off. I think it's working. Last week I mentioned I lost my phone, and so I'm going to be doing this. This is on my computer. It brings me back to the old days in Hawaii when I first started the Pele report in 2010. I used to walk with my computer out to the coast and shoot this Pele report on my computer. It's like a totally weird thing, trying to get it right, trying to get it set up. Oh my goodness. And that is just what is going on now. That is what the yod and the inconjunct, which is really going on all week, okay, as the sun moves through these late degrees of Libra, okay, and does this inconjunct to Uranus and inconjunct to Neptune. It's intense. It's an adjustment aspect. Okay, it is kind of the end of a project or the end of a relationship, the end of a old you, the end of an old identity. To give birth. Okay, but there is that movement and that shift. Okay, it's like a graduation where the future is unknown, and you're graduating from the known and the familiar, and you're saying goodbye to your old teachers, and you're moving into the unknown, and particularly here with the sun then shifting into Scorpio. And this Scorpio is again, endings, death, letting go, finishing, dying, visiting the underworld, getting stripped. It's going to be a very intense month coming up here, and we're already kind of in it. It's going to intensify because Mars is approaching an opposition with Pluto, one of three. It's going to go into Leo, then it's going to turn around oppose Pluto again next year, and then a third and final pass. And Mars opposite Pluto is, it does have to do with, death, destruction, Shiva, Kali energies coming in. It's actually November 4th is the first Mars opposition to Pluto. But let me just talk about this week, because this week is in some way, shape, and form the end of the eclipse season. You may look back a month ago. Okay, there was that first lunar eclipse, and it was actually in Pisces. The moon was in Pisces, and the sun was back there in Virgo, right? And that was the full moon in Pisces. And I talked about, this beginning of that eclipse season had to do with Pisces, surrendering, allowing, accepting, stepping into realizing and feeling our spirit self, Atman, Buddha. Yes, these higher chakras, this higher, refined, subtle, beautiful divine energy, really necessary when things down below are shifting and changing and blowing up, and volcanoes and hurricanes and planet Earth. And that's what this mantra is about this week, okay? We live in the world, but we are not of the world. Yes, we are reincarnating soul beings, okay, having body after body and life after life, and everything shifts on and changes as we evolve, as we change, as we grow, as we expand. And so then we came into this new moon. So here's the thing. The eclipse season started out, okay, with a full moon. And we know that any planet conjunct its own north node is more powerful and strong. So there is this emotional content and issues from the past and our conditioning and our childhood, who we're supposed to be as a man, as a woman, as a Greek, as a Muslim, as a Christian, as an American, and blah, 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 blah. We have so much conditioning. That it inhibits the true, natural expression of our deepest, innermost self and truth. And that is what these eclipses are about. That is what the north node of the moon, moving through Aries from July of 23 to January of 25. A year and a half of discovering our instinctive, natural, raw, primal energy. And we know what? It's wounded. Chiron is there for 8 years. It spends a longer time in Aries than any other sign. So we have been taught to submit and taught to lay down and take it and follow this mandate and this, advice and this teacher and this parent and fit in and belong and don't ruffle the waves and make trouble. Don't be that Aries ram and be headstrong. No, 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 no. So, we're all collectively healing this wound, and some are doing it more gracefully than others. Some are rebelling, revolting, blowing up, fighting, yelling, screaming, being aggressive, but that is not necessarily, the pathway forward. We know that whenever the north node of the moon is moving through Aries, Mars rules Aries. So we want to really follow Mars in our natal chart. Get in touch with wherever your Mars is. Where is your Mars? Collectively, we have Mars in Cancer. This is honoring, feeling, maybe crying. But, we have needs and we have fears. We all have emotional security, insecurity. We don't want to be abandoned. We want to belong. We want a sense of family. Well, this Mars is like really, going for it, I think of Homeland Security and how the United States is Cancer. So Mars is going over the sun, of the United States. Right? And this election time is heating up, and then we have a Mars opposite Pluto, right around the election day. It's very... So there's a lot going on down here in the material world, in the 3D, time, space, polarity, right, wrong, good, bad, yes, no, black, white, left, right. And what do we have then? The sun aspecting Uranus is the personal unconscious. Neptune is the collective unconscious. So this is a time of really having unconscious forces, both individual and collective, raising up like the dragon's head that wants to spit fire or wants to devour us. But, we have to be in that sun. And that sun in, the late degrees of Libra now is calling for wisdom, calling for Pallas Athena, calling for balance, equanimity, equality, justice and fairness and beauty. So let's not get lost. Let's not get caught up in the whirlwinds, in all the, things that are going on down here on this planet, but necessarily rise up and feel and tap into these higher spiritual forces. I have Uranus ruling the 6th chakra, Neptune ruling the 7th chakra. This adjustment is kind of a tweaking, It's like we're getting tweaked a little bit. And it can throw us out of our ego, throw our ego off balance, and that ego seeks identity and it seeks power and it seeks security. And so all of these things are being challenged now. So it's not an easy aspect at all. But the beautiful part about it is, right? It's like I said, yads are like slingshots. And the resolution of that yad, is the opposite polarity point. I want to read to you the Sabian symbol first, for this full moon, right? The 25th degree of Aries, yeah? And that is the possibility for us to gain experience at 2 levels of being. Jupiter in Gemini. Yeah, 2 levels of being. Even the fish, Pisces, is, 2 fish swimming, back and forth. And then, of course, Libra is the scales bouncing back and forth and back and forth. And even Scorpio has this dual nature of the serpent or the eagle. We can go down and be the serpent, or we can rise up and be the eagle. So we have, there's so much duality, down here. And we can be and operate at two levels at the same time. That's what the mantra is about. Yeah. The revelation of new potentialities. In some unspecified way, the symbol is a guarantee. It's a guarantee that we can operate successfully at two levels of consciousness if we have previously met the condition mentioned in the previous symbol. Be open, be able and willing to shape your translucent mind in the form revealing spiritual fulfillment. And you will be able to experience life and power on inner as well as outer planes. The implied message is one of faith. We can only truly experience what we deeply believe we can experience. We can experience love, peace, our own inner truth, calm, serenity, beauty. These are all within our reach. Energy follows attention. Where is your attention? Where is it lying? Is it on the problems? Is it on the issues? Is it on what's missing and what's wrong and the glass is half empty? Or are you open to this new potentiality, this new way of being and experiencing yourself, relationship, and life? This symbol announces the possibility of a new step in evolution, but it is still only a possibility, a promise. The individual is truly on probation. You are being watched by Great Spirit. You are being watched. You are on probation by divine intelligence. Can you handle it? Look at Zephyr, the wind, wants to blow my computer away. Oh my God. And so it's so cool because then the slingshot, right? That opposite the midpoint of Uranus and Neptune, okay, is right in the late degrees of Aries, just a couple of degrees later. Yeah. And yeah, this is the necessity for mature preparation and self-criticism. So we need to really discriminate. We need to really, discern. Yeah, use our discernment and focus on, yes, what is possible, what is our future potential, and this is the tricky part. Why? Because this is astronomically, it's actually an eclipse. It is, yes, another lunar eclipse. So a month ago, we had that full moon in Pisces. Then we had the new moon solar eclipse in Libra 2 weeks ago. And now, 2 weeks later, she comes back to her own north node. So what we have is on a solar eclipse 2 weeks ago was the new moon, a new beginning. The moon at her own south node was weaker. So our subconscious, our emotions, our inner child, our past were not as dominant. So we could use our will and use our conscious solar power to envision a new future. And that seed was sown. Now, 2 weeks later, here comes the moon. Here comes the emotional resistance. Here comes the clinging to the past. Here comes all those old insecurities. Up to deal with them once again. Right? So, yes, knowing the astrology, knowing this time, take it that, we're on probation. It's like we're getting tested. Can you hold to the vision? Can you hold the belief? And can you step into your own truth and your own power? This brings us back to Chiron and Aries. back to the nodes in the Libra Aries axis of relationship and partnership. Brings us back to the mantra. The mantra for this week, yes, is that I am a spirit being. I'm a spirit being. Now I'm incarnated in 3D. If I want to create, I need to relate without losing what it means to be me. This is a time of changing our relationships, whether they're love relationships, whether they're business relationships, whether they are, parental or child, or, all the way that we relate to each other, even our communities. We can look at nations. It's time for nations to change the way that they relate to each other. That South Node in Libra is saying goodbye to codependence, goodbye to domination, goodbye to conquering and control, and let us move, okay, away from the old ways. Yeah. Nonviolent communication says, we're moving out of dominating socio-cultural conditioning and language to relationship-based, yes, conditioning and even language. Let's really focus on our relationships. Let's really be true to ourselves. Mars in Cancer now for 6 months or so, okay, along with Leo, wants to express its personal self. It longs, okay, for emotional connection, and that requires vulnerability. And now the sun moving into Scorpio, we've got more water. We've got Mercury trine Saturn over there in Pisces. Understand, we're going to have Saturn, Neptune, Mars, Sun, and Mercury in water signs, okay, for a few weeks to come here. And water is spirit. Water is intuitive. Water is psychic. This is our extrasensory perception. And it's also very, very psychically sensitive. Breathe. Relax. And discern between what is my own, my Aries, myself, versus what am I picking up from my roommates, my housemates, my community, okay, AI and Twitter and Facebook and YouTube, what am I absorbing? Yeah, like a psychic deep sea sponge, just sucking it up and sucking it in unknowingly. We have to. Saturn and Pisces is calling for psychic boundaries. Like, define what is not mine, what is not my truth, and then express that truth and change those relationships. I mean, Scorpio does have to do with confrontation, right? Of a very intimate, nature. Mercury through Scorpio is have those deep, possibly confrontational, yes, uncomfortable, conversations that I talked about in previous Pele reports. This is going to continue on. Spill it out. Spill the beans. Be vulnerable. Expose your truth. Expose yourself. This requires self-love. The more comfortable you are with yourself in your own skin, and you're not feeling guilty or ashamed or, lost in, grief that, you messed up and you're not perfect and you want to hide, okay, your imperfections or, hide this or hide that. No. Scorpio wants it all up on the table. Let's talk about it. So it's a very good time. Next week, early next week, Mercury trine Saturn. It's a good time to travel. I'll be doing some of that. It's a good time to communicate, and it's a good time. It's like, the pathway is open. Okay, between Saturn and Pisces, spiritual authority, spiritual maturity, tapping into our spiritual nature and including that in our identity. Instead of identifying with the temporary ego and my possessions and my looks and my business and my this, that, and the other thing, let's make our identity who we are as creative artists, therapists, healers, magicians, mystics. Move into the dream, manifest the dream. Yeah. Imagine all the people living life in peace. That could be the song for this week, but I've got another one, and it's by George Harrison. He did a whole album, Living in the Material World. Yeah. Let's not get swept away with the temporary material world. All things come from God and all things go to God is a very good meditation. So all these things are temporary. All these things are going to pass away. Even our bodies are going to pass away. Our families, our jobs, our money, our health, our youth, it all passes away, baby. But there is this eternal soul, this essence, this kernel that incarnated right now during this tumultuous change in history, because this is where the action is right here on planet Earth. But let's view it from the stands. Let's not get too caught up in the game, but really step into Pisces in the 12th house, which is the observer, right? And Saturn is objective. So, there comes a time to just like, whoa, breathe in, let go, and observe. And be true to the highest spiritual self. Yeah. One more time. I am a spirit being, now incarnated in 3D. If I want to create, I need to relate without losing what it means to be me. Let's not lose ourselves. Move on, move up, and move out. Namaste. Aloha. So much love.